guess that's the great thing.
Joe's been working for us recently.
Oh.
The answer to the question is
He's waiting on me. I had heard about the
no,
pyramid.
nobody's waiting on you, and I don't like it. Now, what happened is that we don't have any plans. We don't have anybody interested in giving me a fucking plan. I'm not talking about you.
Plans. Oh, like
Yeah.
architectural plans? Or?
And so we just kind of, in the critical path, kind of dominate what we have to figure out. And so, the steel's coming in, the structure's not struck to the architectural.
Yeah.
It's all good. Make Terry good while it's there.
Okay.
We talked about the cap flashings on all those, bar rafters and stuff. I'll have to ask Mike about the other, but I'm sure he won't have much to say about it. Do you know Andy Äsk? Jennifer Doyle?
I do now.
I
Nice to
have
meet
heard
you.
Jennifer, Andy purports to be a mechanical engineer. And I say Andy knows more about cold things than most.
Cold.
Cold thing.
Air conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
In the north, we don't call it air conditioning. We call it heat conditioning. Don't we?
Air conditioning.
Anyway, I'm kind of numb. Andy had a long day too. Well, you can sit anywhere you want, or you can yell around, or what?
Okay.
I don't know. Christoph got the dumbest goddamn thing set up you can get again.
I try to make it as calm as possible.
Oh, I know.
It's always my goal.
You got them Sarah Palin glasses on, make you look intelligent. Are they clear lensed? What?
These are
I'm sorry.
just reading glasses.
That's a great
People said, why do you do that? I said, it's hard being me. I grabbed a girl and apologized a lot. Like this, you see that? What? You just say, hey, you can't. Or so you say, oh, hold on a second. You work good? You having a good time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey.
Dio mio.
Hey, I recognize.
Yeah, get there.
You hear what you want to hear.
I want to have breakfast.
I think that, is there any way that?
Yeah, yeah. See, the PMCS side.
Anything, well, I can do, after you breakfast, I can play.
Sorry, that's the facility guys.
Yeah. He changes. What
Yeah, he does.
changes it. I can go out and
So
show
no,
you.
like all those medical
Full
school
solid.
things happening, that's the rich
Yeah.
side.
Right.
Not the guys that work
Right.
hard, scrambling for funds.
What kind of college
I
are we using?
know, I have one job at
Would
Memorial
it be-
State Bank, you would think,
It would be better for me
get as much
if we
money as
did
they
what I
can
got.
to that, but.
Everything in here is open.
Electric box.
Yeah, well, they did get money to seal the
He
joints
doesn't-
up,
he doesn't
electric
use
boxes,
it for
but,
working now.
yeah,
doing
the rest of it.
1 hour. So
Well, I don't need this one. I mean, I'm here. My relationship is, are you available?
Yeah.
Dinner party.
Yeah.
Dinner tomorrow night. My project.
But
I think it's
that
good.
is like
So,
a webinar setup.
you know, there's a
Oh, okay, all right.
Literally it's live broadcasting and it'll be available
So I have,
on our YouTube page.
Well, I mean, he needs clean space and D, you ain't nothing need Andy.
But for now,
So we were doing like
Is that the house on one?
project wise or.
yeah, but it's done. It's not.
Dive in.
No, I have an 8 to 10
Life.
console.
I have 165
It's brand new, but.
I'll tell you what,
Nine
I
seven
don't
is
know where they
historical,
breakfast,
and
you
the
want one or.
less than historical.
Yeah.
So no, my Thursday's pretty bad. I have a consultation. It's a remodel of an old house, or no, it's a remodel of an old house.
This day, so I'm kind of at the
And then I have a PhD.
Yeah.
I hire architects, I hire contractors. We don't have any in-house
Yeah.
stuff.
Basically,
It's all hiring out, big and small.
Tomorrow noon,
Projects.
right? And then
So
tomorrow
keep it
dinner.
real.
Okay.
We'll get together.
All right.
Maybe tomorrow evening. So here's what's gonna look like, Joe.
Tomorrow afternoon, Andy's working.
Okay, good. So then dinner.
Yeah.
I don't know what's like, I don't care what it is.
So,
Of course, you can't read.
Yeah, I was wondering, you know, there's waves,
So
funding
here's UConn's
things.
story.
Yeah.
Sometimes the economy booms
Alright.
and then you get a
Whereas
taste
sections,
of wave.
people criticize how long it
So I think we
takes.
should put these first.
Yeah, you-
Come around here, please.
Like, there was just that thing on the news about the flood relief money, like there's
Okay.
some billion.
No,
I just can't see them from where I'm sitting, so it'd be kind of
Distributed to the
Let's put them in
victims
the right order.
in, I can't remember where.
You wanna do the sections
You're like,
before
"Why?
the
We gave you
real? I
the
think it makes
legislature,
sense.
we gave you the money, you haven't spent it. It takes a while to spend money. It's
Yeah.
not
Joe,
easy.
did you
You
want
don't
to-
spend it on
Hurdles.
obviously.
Well, yeah, and there's just a lot of procedural stuff.
So-
a
I don't know
lot
why
of
he never
requirements,
did one,
regulations,
even on the
reviews,
same flight.
authorizations.
Yeah.
So, you know, we got.
What? So it starts out like this.
$4 million.
Well, I know, but he took them, took my dates
I
out.
still haven't got it.
No, they're all in order.
No,
They're
they're
going
not.
as fast as
Well,
This is
they're-
1988.
a bunch of
It's the same
projects.
house.
1888, 1856, 1888.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't
Whoa!
want it. I don't know what I'm
Damn,
gonna do with
it's
it.
all
I do
piece
know.
of
It's
shit.
just, you can only do so
That
much.
slide,
Yeah.
this thing doesn't go to
Yeah.
anything, this one goes to the next one, it's 1900.
He just left.
Really?
He got after forever.
Yeah.
He left. He's working at Texas State.
Uh-huh.
in
That has nothing to do with anything.
Okay.
This don't go to there, it goes to there.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to lose
like,
somebody.
No, they've done what, they got nothing to do with each other, this slide here goes to there.
it's more money.
This has-
It's closer to home.
This has
It's a
nothing
lot
to do with
less
that
fun.
house, it says very clear,
He really,
1888, it doesn't say 1856.
Yeah.
Really.
Where'd it go?
Stride.
Yeah.
So you may delete one.
He really
No, I don't want you to
walked
leave
through
it
that
alone.
whole process with the San Saba County Courthouse.
Well,
which
you can put that other picture
is
on.
kind of like a
Yeah.
with a
That
box
picture, this needs to be
you
by
Yeah,
don't
itself.
know what you're gonna get.
That
But.
thing still has a good time.
Okay, so.
Yeah, well, we did get the emergency stuff done, the chimney and the roof
So now we
replaced
go.
and no
1888.
callbacks. So especially after all
This
this.
picture and that picture
time.
all together, the number.
You know, just UT and there's actually a neat University of Methodist church down there that's
You know, you have it on the same slide.
No, let's leave one.
had it.
Or do you want on something?
Huge lakes.
Figures.
Makes sense.
Beautiful.
That's
No, this is here.
Read it, it says
Yeah.
1856.
It's like,
This says 1888.
yeah, well, actually, it's funny. So I'm coming in after the fact.
Starts at
But yeah,
1856,
Sandy
it goes to
still, I worked with her to get the drawings for 2007, so of course the roof is leaking.
I dated
8
wrong.
years since construction, but I think we figured it out.
And then 1888,
But climbing around that
But that
attic,
slide has nothing to do with
and
anything.
I realized that I
That's
hired a bunch of
1989.
guys who were big has to crawl
Give her a
around.
headlamp and send her
Yeah,
off.
yeah. It's like I gotta keep up with the yoga, you know.
That's right.
Be able to climb around the gathering spray.
Job posting. I've got it.
So we get
And I'm trying to be more explicit about the job requirements.
So what do you want to do?
Getting in crawl spaces, walking along on your elbows and toes, going in and out.
You ever dust?
Don't apply. You don't want to do those things.
Yeah.
Don't show up. So,
Yeah, it's one of the guys I hired has done decades of clay tile roofing, and honestly, I was glad because I
Doesn't matter.
didn't have done
This-
enough.
this
But
one,
walking on I think that one wasn't too bad, but still, I mean, it was,
that sounds terrible.
yeah. Down there is really tricky.
So,
But you know what we really do?
But yeah, the
See,
whole,
slow
you
fucking
know,
down,
it's
and
raining,
skits away,
we
they
want
run
it fixed
everything,
now,
and
you have to go through this process.
Yeah.
There's a scientific method to figure out what's leaking, so you don't waste the money, but
This one,
it does take
and
time.
that one, and that one belongs on fine, that's fine, this one, that's fine, this one. Goes a little dark, that's okay, this is okay.
so you put two on each page.
Yeah, but they're the wrong units.
Or whatever.
So I'm gonna do.
Don't worry about it.
So
I can
many
pretty easy.
possible treatments
As long as
for
it's
one
that.
correct.
Yes.
That's bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways to fix it. If you don't know what to fix it.
And then this one,
Goes to the
You can't succeed.
this one goes to that Victorian house.
And there seem to be a lot of buildings where, you know, people are just throwing waterproofing at the problem, but without figuring out what the problem is.
Very natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Put another layer on the top.
Yeah.
That's fine, that's fine.
Sometimes it's true.
That's the part I think I like the most is the detective.
And now this should probably come
It is.
first, showing the sections.
There's a lot of new construction,
So you wanna go through
and there's a
all
lot of
these
people
together?
who
No, I
are
think we should just go
consultant,
with
but
the
drama
picture.
in new construction, just with
But I don't think it's
they
section.
cut costs, they had site visits, and then they end up
Okay,
rushing
so
the project.
booked at 6:30.
It's just
Somewhere.
counterproductive, and
Has a
it's
20,
kind of
it
the
has
nice thing about
it
It
has
booked till
existing
6,
buildings,
and then this one is out.
renovations is a lot of
Well,
times.
I booked Salt Creek's back room at 6:30.
Cool, that sounds
Make
good.
it
Hors
right.
d'oeuvres and beer, if anybody wants to
They've been
come.
burned,
You're right,
but,
it
you
did
know,
burn as opposed to.
yeah.
Oh, I should say, we used to go to
Yeah.
that.
I can't eat their greasy.
Fine for now.
Yeah.
Can or what?
Oh, it's not that, I can't digest that
Yeah.
commercial
perhaps.
greasy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
See what-
Well, I'm old.
Go
Sir?
ahead.
Trying to get to the food. Don't get between us and the food.
We got Shoal Creek booked at 6:30 for hard hors d'oeuvres and beer for everybody who wants to come.
Great, so.
You know Ben?
I do. I've met him several times.
I'm waiting for more of my.
You know down there in the community, they kind of shut us off.
I was.
What do they run out of money? Huh?
Yeah, I would get
Well,
that.
we gotta pick a take back a ride, right?
Leslie. Yeah.
We started that.
I didn't,
90%.
they weren't able to come, they were just talking about it on the show, had other things that they had to do, but I didn't even realize that they were. Let's do it. I saw it on the website.
So, about 49, right?
Our best.
I'm gonna be, telling you guys soon that this is panel discussion and yes, someone else discussion. Trying to sit quietly and. Dangerfield, it's not broad to me. Commissioner, I see, that's name sticks. And word without. So I talked to Ben about that project we did. Clients are like, I don't know, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's
we
funny.
were talking about it.
$180,000 for $180,000 design to come through the list of things in their house. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
Take a shake.
Did you ever get that chill water? You know,
I think when talking to somebody knows that really she's kind of client service question. I'm like,
Well, and this question is a little bit different. Yeah.
He wants you. Okay.
Are you? No. You grew up Lutheran, didn't you? Yes, I did. Yeah, you start out as
And Mother Day took me to the Baptist church. I went there about 2 years, and I was at the age of 7 or 8. I hated their guts so bad because they were just not going to do it. And there was Presbyterian churches on the street. And from the Sunday school of my Baptist Sunday school, I could see the bell in this old Presbyterian church. And I walked across the street and I walked up the stairs and they had to do that bell roll. I was about 8 and I became a Presbyterian. And I did that for about 6 weeks, walked through the Baptist church, and then I got busted with the Presbyterian preacher showed up at the house. I know what wrong with them. And they were tickled sick. I just told them I couldn't go back to the Baptist church. I had nothing in common.
Joe's very developed. He's got to be sensitive.
She knows. She's darling and smart.
Yeah, we just Joe to listen to something.
You what?
If I could just get you guys to listen every morning.
You don't think I listen? You know, sometimes I don't acknowledge that. Then I argue about it in my head for days. What is it you think I disagree with? Well, I saw you so frustrated that you were beat down. You just got like okay. I just don't have the physical strength to have this discussion. And I didn't realize it until I saw it in your eyes that that was not my intent. And I hate committee meetings like that. I hate them. And so I can't seem to get rid of them. You know, everybody wants to come. They don't have a say. They're not a participant. They don't really care. Don't come to my meeting. Let us tell you what we're going to do. And then you say that's not all I want to do. And so we're working on that.
I sat here so people could listen.
But it was kind of a productive meeting. But only because Ken came and he was an afterthought. The meeting should have been set up around him. He's a weirdo, isn't he? He said it was. Okay, where's
Okay, everyone, welcome.
what?
Thanks for taking the time to come today for this conversation. And this is a panel discussion, and I want to emphasize that it's a discussion. Right? So you guys are going to get out of this something that's in proportion to what you put into it, how well you listen, how well you formulate the questions, how well you can bring the actual questions you have from your projects to these guys on the panel and gals on the panel. So we're talking about historic homes, and all our clients want to be comfortable in a modern environment. So there are some mismatches in that. We'll get to that in the pump priming questions. So positive energy, that's us. Raise your hand here to work for us. Because Eric, Robert's here, and Miguel, I guess they forgot. We are the organizer. I'm moderating, but the smarts are over there at this table for this presentation. We do consult on a lot of the same issues you're going to see here. So introductions. Andy Äsk is in the middle. There he is. I don't know. How many of you have heard the name Andy Äsk? Let's see. I definitely have. When I heard he was coming to town, I was in a mild swoon, right? He's a bit of a rock star as far as dehumidification. He wrote this book called H2No. When did you write it, Andy? 2006, 7, 8?
He might be
1964, 65, no, 2008.
He might be after that.
So he has a fantastic perspective. It's actually meant to be read by all of you. It's meant to be read by the lay reader or the average reader. Architects, engineers, builders, everyone can read it. There are sections that get a little geeky, but you can skip those without any loss of coherence. Those 3 copies are for sale. It's funny, it's irreverent. He has a great sense of humor. It's a book well worth reading that gives you a broad perspective based on building science. There is a guy in this industry called Joe Stiebrick. You pronounce it Stiebrick. Anyone heard of that guy? So he did the forward for that. This is sold by his company, Building Science Corporation Press. And a lot of the wisdom that comes out of the collected, once a year, Joe Stiebrick has a an invitation on the conference. He invites a bunch of people. Andy's been there probably since the first ones, I don't know. So a lot of the conversations that come out of those conferences are embedded in this book. So that's Andy Äsk. The next guy is Joe Pinnelli. When it comes to historic retrofits, you can't do any better than this guy for knowledge. He was one of the people that was born ahead of the generation of chronic multitaskers, but he's all set. He's wired for multitasking. He's ready to go and design these things. He has a lot of experience. Getting the information out of Joe is a treat. You guys are in for a treat here today. So format-wise, I'm going to talk for a little bit, do a 2-slide introduction of the whole topic. Joe has some slides to share from the projects. This is not a TV show. This is not pre-recorded. There's no hour agenda or format here. This is just a bunch of people that care about buildings and renovating them properly in the same room at the same time, having a discussion. So last is Jennifer Doyle. She comes to engineering through the architecture background. She's been working for her own firm for 5 years now, doing engineered exteriors. That's the name of her firm, Engineered Exteriors LLC. She does roof consulting and wall assembly consulting. I guess all kinds of assembly consulting, below grade. So what we're seeing in that, and in that table over there, and even in our company, is that in case you haven't noticed, the number of products, systems, and assemblies has proliferated, delivered in ways that society delivers the built environment to itself. It's getting more complex. We no longer have a journeyman apprentice system where we're learning on the back of people who have been doing this forever. We in fact have a system where most of the information flow originates from where? From manufacturers. Right? Nothing inherently wrong with that. There are times where what's wrong with that is the data is skewed. You're going to love this new product. It's a miracle. It's going to solve all your problems. And all they're thinking about is their slice. They're not thinking about the building as a system of interconnected systems. So it's good to have broad perspectives. All right. Speaking of broad perspectives, a building, if you were to say buildings are environmental separators, you'd be right. Sounds a little sterile. We're an environmental separator, but in a very direct way, this building that we're in, it's a functional device, and what it's functioning to do is to keep the outdoor conditions out, ideally, and to keep the indoor conditions in. So this is representing indoor conditions. We know what we want those to be, right? We want it to be quiet, we want it to have good air temperature, we want it to have low humidity in the right range. We want it to have good outcomes for health, and that's a big one. Paying attention to what we do in terms of what goes into our lungs, how many hundreds of pounds of air from our homes we take into our lungs, and potentially pounds of our clients are starting to know about this stuff. So the environmental separator is separating the outdoor conditions, which are constantly changing, from the indoor conditions, which we would like them to be relatively stable. That means that what the separator, the walls, the floor, the roof, if it's constantly under changing modes. If it's hot out, the heat wants to come in. If it's cold out, the heat wants to go out. That's a big difference, right? Same thing with vapor. So we have this environmental separator. It's holding the outdoor out and the indoor in. And we call it the building envelope or the building enclosure. Sometimes people even get into semantics of what the difference of that is. Maybe Scott and I can jump into that. But pretty much they're the same thing. And it does three things, right? The enclosure, this is representing the enclosure, the building envelope. Obviously, it's holding up this wall. It's holding up that roof. And so there's this control in terms of structural. It's holding things up. The middle one is probably the most important. Those as representing the control layers. It might not be in the middle. It might be on the inside face, it might be outside, but the control function is controlling this environmental separation. So when we look at an enclosure functionally, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that it's got a control function. And then it's got the protection function, meaning that you have some brick veneer or you have lap siding. That siding is actually there from a functional perspective, primarily to protect the control layers which are beneath it from UV, which is a big damage function. and from just getting ladders and branches getting just ripped and damaged. So support, control, protect. Even now, by the way, if there's any questions or comments, or let me slow down. This is the last slide I have. Ready, Joe?
Sure.
So when we're controlling the separation of keeping the outdoor in, we're dealing with 3 ingredients, and they break down into 4, right? Number 1 and number 3 are both water, just in liquid and gas form. So we're dealing primarily, when it comes to keeping the outdoor out, if we don't keep liquid water out, whether it's rainwater or groundwater, nothing else really matters in terms of durability, right? In terms of good outcomes on the enclosure. If your roof leaks, what do you care if your insulation was grade 1? It doesn't matter. Same thing with air. If you have a fantastic insulation job but a very poor air control layer, and I think air control layers are going to be a very important consideration going forward with the slides we're about to see. If you have fantastic insulation but the air can go around it, it would be like wearing a very warm coat and standing like this. Right? It's like, yeah, it's well insulated, but it's wide open, the air is moving right through it. And the number of cubic feet per minute that can go in and out of a historic structure are in the thousands, potentially even in the tens of thousands, depending on weather conditions. So it's a lot of air, which like people call mass. You have a massive change. You have this, like right in this room right here, there's probably 5,000 pounds of air, something like that, maybe 3,000 pounds of air. So it's a lot. You just don't notice it. And that air carries a lot of energy with it. So water vapor is another one that's very important to consider in historic buildings. Water vapor is trapped by glass, foil, plastic, whiteboards, mirrors, things like that. You can't move through them. Pretty much everything else that can move through, with the exception of some of the control layers now. And there's actually a lot of interesting discussion around whether we should have vapor closed or vapor open building assemblies. And the answer is it depends, and it's changing. The answer is somewhat changing over time. If you have a vapor control layer that's tight and vapor can't get through it, one good thing that you've done is you've defined outside and inside in a very direct way. And the last one is thermal. So we've got this 6-sided box, and we don't want heat to leak out in the winter. We don't want heat to leak in the summer. So we're controlling rain, air, vapor, thermal. Now we're going to talk about historic walls.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Go through it. Oh, by the way, this is all a little bit extemporaneous.
I don't know. 36 or 37 years, I can't remember. Okay, so building science, I got hooked into building science about 16 years ago, and I started doing Joe Schneeberg stuff, and I was really ticked off at the fact that we were just doing things that the industry told us to do, or we were, and I make a speech about it in my webpage about the fact that once we stopped doing time-honored construction, there wasn't any research to it, and it all just became what the manufacturers were putting out. So this is the Neil Cochran house. It was built in, I don't know, 1856, 1853, something like that. It's pre-Civil War. It's built very much with the same techniques as this building. It's a structural masonry building. It doesn't leak much air. It performs just fine. I don't know what the performance is in here with this and all the glass, but still it performs just fine. And then what happened is that, okay, now this is 1888. This house is at 2212 Nueces, and this purportedly is the first brick veneered house in Austin. The other was structural masonry. So when you go inside, you can see that it says brick veneer, stud, shiplap, and that's it. So when you look at the wall section, is that there's the shiplap. I'm sorry, this is so bright. I'll take out an airliner. But there's the shiplap, there's the brick, there's the stud, and there's nothing. I mean, it's just, and so you really can't insulate this building because that brick, the capillary, I'm going to show you a picture, we did a test. The capillary action of the brick just pulls the water right through the mortar joints. I don't care if you paint it, I don't care what you do to it. The capillary action will pull the water right through the brick. The only purpose of these slides, by the way, is just to try to, and you can feel stop anywhere, but was to try to get the conversation going about maybe have a specific. So there it is. There's the standard configuration of you see that now this is that building. It's brick, stud, and shiplap on the inside. So you don't have any place for, there's no drainage plan, there's no felt, there's nothing between that brick and that shiplap. And so if you try to insulate it, and I've seen plenty of people do it, if you blow it full of cellulose or something, the capillary action from the brick is going to suck the water right into the insulation. You're and going for air infiltration instead.
Being okay with air infiltration?
Huh?
Being okay with air infiltration?
No, I mean you kill the air infiltration. Yeah. I'm talking about to the interior space. You have to ventilate this, and we did it in really I didn't bring size of that, but we fixed it where the air goes in there, up and out the attic eave, and we did a really good job of a barrier, an air barrier, just with drywall and etc. inside the house. Okay, so this again, this is an A11 Congress. It's built about 1890. It's a structural masonry wall. And oddly enough, that's a south wall, and as hot as it gets, you can still heat and cool the building pretty well. But there is no air infiltration. Air infiltration is almost a bigger enemy than the water. So this is a...
Ignore what he just said.
I'm just kidding. What's he doing?
I said ignore what you just said.
This is
So if your roof leaks, I don't know, you could argue that that's a big
well, I'm not really going to talk about the roof because we're assuming that the roof is pretty much non-permeable, and then we can insulate it. And the roofs have a tendency not to be a problem. That have a solution. But here it is. This is just like that brick building. Here's wood shiplap on studs, and there you see what's happened. They've insulated it with bats. And by God, if you do insulate with a bat, one, it's a mistake, but two, if you put craft paper on there, then the moisture with the old techniques. Okay, so the old techniques work just fine, and then what we do, we air condition it. So now we're drawing, and vapor moves to the coldest surface. So the old buildings really kind of just went back and forth in the old days, and once we air conditioned this building, the vapor is moving through that shiplap into the building, and it's really important that you don't set up anything. And Christoph touched on it really briefly, but you don't want to set up something in that wall in these old buildings that is vapor permeable, because you got to worry about where you set up a condensation plane in the wall.
Joel, did you mean to say impermeable?
That's what I meant.
We do that.
Impermeable, yeah. Now, this is 1906 Baylor. This house was built in 1904, it's 7,000 feet. It looks really good, doesn't it? Okay. Brick, stud, wood lab, and plaster. That's great. The wood lab. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have ever opened one up, but there it is. Okay, now see, this is the brick. Okay, there's the stud, there's the brick. Once you pull the wooden lab off, that's what you see. Now, we did a water test on this because we really wanted to insulate this building. Do you see the water? We didn't blow water on it with a fire hydrant. We just ran a hose down it, just barely ran water down it. And then see the water dripping off of the tie. And all of this, okay.
That's not water vapor, by the way, that's liquid water.
Okay, now, that's the lab. Well, I don't know, there it went. What happened to it? Oh, it has to count up. There you go. Okay, so here it is. See the brick, and there's the stud, and then there's the lab. Well, you can't insulate the building. You can't do it. If you do, you're gonna make a big wet compress in the wall. So here's 1910 wood studs, shiplap on the inside. This is 1924. Felt. Now, felt is worthless, okay? But to a preservationist, if you've got felt in there, then you can insulate the inside of the cavity. And this is what the inside looks like of that house. This is all shiplap. You see, there are very few places that have leakage, and when they do, it's because something failed. But the felt, which is a terrible barrier for vapor, it's vapor permeable, is a really good shedding plane. And the felts in the 20s and 30s were pretty crummy. So, what do we got?
Same thing, but there's felt.
Oh yeah, the felt. First thing you do is open it up and scream, yay, felt. Because, okay, so here's 1929 about, and that brick building there looks like it had felt. Now, when you pull the sheetrock off the inside, nothing. And that's ongoing now. We don't quite know what to do. Y'all probably know the Bone House. It's stuck over the felt. This is great. So then the industry came out and started doing weird stuff. We don't know what that is. It's some kind of homicide board. And then but they did. You see, they did shim the siding away from it, which is really important to everybody to try to get it to where it's just not compressed. And okay, so what's that? It's a toilet. So if you open that wall up, there's nothing. This is 1936 or so. They just didn't care. Some a little bit of felt, some not. You can see all of it. Everywhere you got wood, you're going to have staining and leakage. This is. I'm sorry. That looks like I got some kind of delirium tremor going. This is I don't know, 1934. It's over on Woodlawn. The felt here was so crystalline and crummy that we really had a hard place figuring out a way to tie to it when we opened things up to move a window or something. But it did have felt. This is a little house siding, see? And we pulled that fascia off, and the felt on this 1941 house is so thick and dense that it's almost still gummy. And when I found this in my house, and when I found that, I was squealing. Because we took the fascia off and underneath the eave, we took the freeze board off and drilled holes and filled it full of cellulose, which you really shouldn't do in a wood building if you don't have that vapor barrier. And vapor barrier, drainage plane, rain plane, what do you want to call it?
He means weather resistant barrier.
Weather resistant barrier. If you don't have something in there to shed the water in preservation, you have a whole other issue you need to discuss with people.
I'm up to speed on that. The latest, Joe?
Yeah.
The layer.
Thanks
The
God.
layer.
But I mean, everybody had their name, and it was
Building
hard
codes
on
refer to it as vapor. Building codes refer to this as vapor barrier often, and it's quite confusing for you.
So so this is an 80 Stinger house. I don't know, it built in 63 or something, and that's outside, but that's some kind of home so board.
We're looking at it from inside or outside.
Yeah, we're looking from the inside, but look at all the staining. And it's got rock veneer. But so what happened after the time-honored stuff died, felt, is that the industry started reaching out and saying, no, this is it, man, you're gonna love it. Well, no. And this house on the right here was built in 73, and we thought there was a problem, so we pulled the rock off. And what do you call that black stuff? It's a fiberboard, 1973. Christoph did an energy survey on this house, and he sent me a note that said, no way to test, let's call it a house of 1,000 cuts.
Celotex.
Celotex.
That's what it is.
This was the answer to everything.
Yeah.
And then after that, we had black chipboard that came about this wide, big long sheets. Remember that? We built with it for a while. And then I put this on here to show you. This is about 1994. Then we went to Tyvek. And then, hey, 2000 back to felt. Now, when our company does a lot of new construction too, and we use a rubberized membrane on the outside of the building. I was telling you that I lost a big job interview with Monroe Rivera because the lady came to my table, and I was so proud that we put the house in.
Do we put it back up?
No, I was so proud that we stopped all vapor drive and all air drive into our new construction. And then we treat the air, and that's what Andy does. Andy is not only a mechanical engineer, but tomorrow at noon he's going to make a presentation in this room for credit to architects about dehumidification. And I've been putting dehumidification. It takes in outside air, dehumidifies it, it filters it, and we keep the house at 50% humidity. and we keep the air quality really extremely good. And I lost the job because I was interviewing this woman, and I told her that our vapor barrier was so good on the house that it was like a condom. And Miguel Rivera went back to his office after the meeting and called me up and made my ass out severely that I had used the word condom. Yeah, so I didn't get that job. And we're still using condom. So that's about it. So if you think about an old house, and the thing that excited me about building science is that all we got is crap put out by the industry. And so building science is the metrics of how you test the performance. And we can get old buildings to perform, and we can't get them to perform like the new building with a condom, but we can get them to perform. We can slow the air filtration. We can insulate them when we can. What? I did. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry. This thing, I ordered this offline. It came in 6 months after I ordered it from China, and I can, in broad daylight, I can aim at the building across the street, and you can see it clearly. So, it's a little too bright. So when the whole deal comes down, and I'm going to sit down. The whole thing comes down to when we air condition buildings, the vapor moves to the coldest surface. So when we don't have too much trouble in Austin, we don't have much of a vapor flow out in the winter. A little bit. Say on a 28-degree day, it's going to kind of. So I don't know if you've ever been in a house in a bathroom on an exterior wall where there's vinyl wallpaper. If you pull that vinyl wallpaper off on an exterior wall in a bathroom, it's going to have mold behind it because the vapor's drawn through the wall to the coldest surface, and it stops at the vinyl wallpaper. And you've got a host, the paper on the sheetrock, and you've got mold.
Same thing with a mirror.
And a mirror, things like that. It's weird. So you can't use all-base paint on the outside of a building, and you can't do things. So in an old structure, we want the wall to breathe, and I don't like the really term, but I like the term grind coefficient because they were designed to dry back out. That's why you don't paint brick. If you paint the brick, then the capillary action is still there, and the water gets behind the brick, and it can only dry to the inside. And that's why dehumidification equipment's really good. So I don't know. That's about it.
That's good.
So the whole issue of an old house is how do you slow down the air infiltration? How do you insulate it? And how do you stop or slow down the vapor drought?
Yeah. So someone asked Henry Ford how he figured out to make cars, and he said, well, I had to figure it out because if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And so there's this idea that we don't really know what we want. Right? And what we think we want are piecemeal product replacements that are going to be the miracles of science, right? Some sort of magic product placement. What we are getting, what Joe's advocating, is outcome-based designs, where you take into account all the myriad ways that things interact together, and you look at the outcome and think about it. Did any questions come up during that? Anybody want to prime the pump here? If not, I have one for Andy. Andy, you have anything you want to say?
I got a few. Yeah, I got a few comments when I get a chance. All right.
Sure.
Go ahead. No. Let's go to questions. Okay.
You're up.
No. I just when I get a chance to talk.
Well, you got your chance.
This is your chance.
Man,
Please.
I'll tell you.
Over here.
I'll stand over there, please.
Oh, my later.
So who in this room is working on a renovation of an old building? All right. So I want some questions about those buildings. How many we've all sent you to put up? We'll talk it through. Make sure we know every step.
I'm the master of the non sequitur.
You got.
I said I'm the master of the non sequitur. I have some kind of disconnected thoughts here.
Here's his PowerPoint. This is a napkin.
And I had 20 minutes ago. I had absolutely nothing to say. Now that I hear Joe talk, I need about an hour to tell you everything he said was wrong.
That's why we're here.
I'm just going to go backwards to the notes. Joe said you want the building to breathe. No, we don't want the building to breathe, at least not air. You want the building to breathe vapor, but breathing is not good. In other words, buildings need to be very airtight for water reasons. One is to meet building code, right? What's the code required?
It's 5 here, ACH 50.
Yeah, I'm saying, okay, which isn't very high. But the building's got to be airtight just to meet code. Second reason the building has got to be airtight is most moisture enters with the air. Or, you know, air is, people in my area talk about moist air mixture. Air is a mixture of dry air and moisture. And generally speaking, the largest source of moisture in the building is the moisture that comes in with air that infiltrates. So if we want to minimize moisture, if we want to limit the amount of air we have to remove with the air conditioning system, then we want to minimize the amount of air that comes in. So I said I distinguish that from air that comes by diffusion. We have a lot of discussion about moisture that comes through the wall. Joe was just talking about water that might condense behind the vapor, behind that kind of wall covering. The water that comes through the wall by diffusion does the most harm. That's the most harmful moisture, but it's a very small quantity compared to what comes in the air. So that's the second reason that we have code is the first reason. The second reason we want to build the airtight is to minimize the amount of moisture that comes in.
You're talking about harm to the enclosure.
Well, we start with that idea that we want the interior to be relatively dry. People like to keep relative humidity to be around 50%. 60% is good. 50% is good. Okay, to get whatever moisture comes in, we got to remove get the air dry. So if we minimize the infiltration of air, then it's easier to dry the building. The third reason, the third reason I mentioned is that, and this is not quite so obvious. The first two reasons I think are kind of obvious when you think about it, is most insulation strategies don't work if there's any airflow. In other words, like bad insulation in particular depends upon dead airspace. Glass is a relatively good conductor. So like in fiberglass, the glass is not the insulation, it's the airspaces that the fiberglass creates provides the insulation.
Relative to air, glass is a good
Yes, so we need dead airspaces, so the operative word there being dead. It's not dead if there's infiltration. And it gets worse. There's been a lot of lab work on this, that any air circulating through insulation, setting up convection, transports moisture, transports heat. The assembly where the insulation is all needs to be very, very tight. So we don't want buildings to breathe air at all.
This includes attic ventilation.
Yes.
Sounds heretical, but the attic acts like a bellows, pressurizes, depressurizes. So it's breathing the air. It is not exhaling the moisture that it breathes in each time. So it breathes in humid air, exhales out drier air, and humidity in the materials.
An example of how we're going to make buildings breathe vapor, and it's coming in another couple of code changes, is we're going to bring back the ridge vent, but this time it's going to be sealed against air, but it's going to be a vapor permeable material like Tyvek. And
these are already built. Your house has one.
We just tested it. That didn't work exactly. So I'm sorry about that. Joe talked about where to put the vapor. I want to talk about vapor barriers. There's a simple rule of that. The best way to make sure you don't get the vapor barrier in the wrong place is don't put one in.
Don't what?
Just don't put one in. In other words, there's very, very few places. The only place, there might be one other exception, but the main place, the only place I know for sure you got to have a vapor barrier building is immediately under the concrete slab. Not under the sand under the concrete slab, but right under the concrete slab. Joe, was there another place to put a vapor barrier? I can't think of one. Right offhand.
Interior swimming pools.
Yeah, good. Okay. I'm just going through my notes backwards here. God, you're a great source of material, Joe. The lady didn't like condoms. Do you have any other body part metaphor?
You're wrong about the condoms. I see you weren't very well educated on
Okay.
Is it a brand we should recommend?
Joe mentioned felts a little bit. Are felts and tar paper kind of about the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows what to call it?
Well, I call it tar paper.
There you go.
But I'm from Farm, Iowa. What do I know? So
I prefer tar paper.
So tar paper is a wonderful building material. I mean, it always was and all. It's still is. It just, one reason we don't use it, I think it's expensive to put on, right, Joe? That the labor intensive to put those strips on.
I think the industry told us there were better things.
Yeah, and let's see, DuPont's have better marketing, and it's not a great air seal.
Exactly.
It's not a great air barrier, but it's good stuff. So you should never be scared of felt.
As long as you provide some other way to block air.
And Joe will look at this. I just wanted to hammer it. And everybody that's heard Joe speak, or I've heard it 100 times. We go to a lot of trouble to keep water out of our construction, out of our walls, particularly caulk, seal, flash, you name it. All right, it's probably more important to have a strategy for the water to get out. Or water is going to get in, so you want to make sure it has a way out. And Joe, you gave a great example of you made a path for the water to drain out behind the brick.
Yeah.
So always have a strategy for the air to get out.
For the water to get out.
Yeah, that's what the water got. Thank you. I think we'll probably talk more about this later, but I'll make a point now is when we're doing preservation on buildings like the ones we're in, the best way to condition them is don't. In other words, so let's kind of get that straight. There's nothing dumber to do to build an air conditioner.
In terms of durability.
Yeah. In other words, sometime 1,000 years from now, archaeologists are going to be evaluating these old buildings from this period. They're going to say, gee, we had buildings that lasted for hundreds of years up until about the middle of the 20th century. And then suddenly they started deteriorating.
You want to be.
And what's the difference? It's always our air conditioning. And air conditioning increases the potential for moisture, that's condensation, that rots buildings, the buildings aren't going to last as long. So if you have a building you really care about, and there are some gems out there, maybe preserve it like as something to look at. Don't cool it. So I think that was most of my that's all from Joe's talk.
That's what I was trying to say.
Well, I guess I should say it again, Joe. It's
Except for the vapor barrier, it's a good place to put it on the outside of the building here and all.
Christoph said, what was it? You said, well, where's the vapor barrier? It depends. Everyone can say, Joe was being interviewed once, and this kind of person that says, boxers or briefs. And Joe had to think about that a minute. He says, no, depends.
That's right.
I'm done.
So with regard to,
Jennifer, want to add to it?
who wants to hear more about the vapor barrier?
What? Jennifer got something to say.
Jennifer, you want to talk more about the vapor barrier? Or you want to talk about, give a few words?
Yes, just a few words.
You guys thinking of your questions, right?
Well, okay, so we've gone over some of the vapor barrier issues. I think it's important to think about what happens on the inside of the building. Definitely, vapor barriers are great in our climate as long as our inside is controlled. I've done some work with schools where they turn off the HVAC system in the summer, which can reverse everything and end up with
But do they have
moisture in the walls.
dedicated humidity control?
No.
That's
So that's always the first question I ask whenever somebody's pushing, because the rubberized asphalt, I mean, that's great for sealing fastener holes, but it is a big vapor barrier. Other things, just as far as insulating historic walls, the way those walls, without the insulation, there's a lot less thermal shock. So in the summer, your interior materials are generally a little bit warmer. In the winter, your exterior materials, I take it back. Yeah, I said it backwards. Okay, summer interior is cooler, but winter, your claddings are going to be warmer. And so while we don't have the really cold winters, aside from all the vapor concerns, if you don't carefully consider what your insulation does to that brick veneer, you can end up with more fluctuating temperature changes and more distress in the brick. I'm a big advocate of let it breathe, let it breathe, let it breathe, especially on historic buildings, because a lot of times you have to insulate from the inside. So I think that's it. Enclosures, we talk about air barriers. It's all in the details.
Yeah, so when you said let it breathe.
Not air, vapor, yes. But a lot of times it's all in where the roof meets the walls and how we're detailing those flashings. And, that's the number one, where the deck, if it's a flat roof, where the deck hits the parapet wall and how those areas up, you can get air infiltration in or out from that deck to wall condition. So windows are another just incredible meeting of trades. You have potentially waterproofing, masonry, glazing, all kinds of trades, and they're not necessarily working together. And I think a lot of the education of the contracting community is still happening to get these trades to look at things beforehand and maybe generate mock-ups. If there's anything I would get into a project that's complicated, is the mock-up and water testing and air testing, those details. So that's my 2 cents on envelope.
Steph, let's see what you have to say about
So.
this. Or we can say it from over there.
Yeah.
So, since you guys don't ask a question, here's one that I think is out there. I'm just really shy to ask it. This assembly, let's see, where was it? Here. You guys remember this one? Just had a bunch, variations of it. So there's no shedding layer in there. The layer, right?
No tar pipe.
There's no weather-resistant barrier, air barrier, which organization you call it. The whole vapor barrier, by the way, there's pretty much no such thing as a vapor barrier. There are vapor retarders, and there's different classes. So it's a euphemism. I think the layer is just as good. But there is no layer in this. There's no water shedding layer behind the brick.
It's the brick itself, though, right?
The brick is the primary water shedding layer, exactly. So on the order of a few single digits of percent of the liquid water that hits the brick. You guys want to pick a number? Is it 3%, 5%?
That what?
How much water hits the brick makes it through the brick in liquid form?
A lot.
A lot. So, let's say it's 5%. Well, let's say it's 3%. It could be tens of gallons in a rain event that makes it through. So it's not like you can just ignore it because it's going to move through. And does it move through the brick or the mortar?
Mortar.
And so if you...
Joe Stebrick says that wall is a big reservoir and all that brick's holding mortar. It's a tremendous amount of water that it holds.
Yep. Each little bubble that pour in the brick, the surface of that pour is lined with water.
I'd say, Chris, this is a recent Stebrick article. If you've got a de facto water control layer, if that air gap is wide.
Interesting, yeah.
There's the air gap is, I don't know, maybe 4 inches or something.
3/4.
But if it were wider,
Well, it's probably 5 to the,
Right.
to the back of the.
Because he's saying the water is going to drip down here and not hit any.
then it will function as a barrier.
It has since 1888.
Well,
So your clients are okay not insulating?
Yeah.
How do the studs look?
I beg your pardon?
How do the studs look inside that wall?
Oh, it's pristine. There's a couple of reasons for that, though. First off, mold can't grow in longleaf pine,
that's what I'm thinking.
which is a big deal. But this interrupting? No, you don't go away. You stand right
I
there.
just don't want to be hit
But-
by
Look over here and I see if I can get you for you. No, but the term, we want it to breathe and we want it to ventilate are kind of different things. We want to kill air infiltration in the house, but the wall has to ventilate. You need it to come in at the bottom and go in at the top. That's time honored. That's what it's been doing all this time. So if you don't insulate this cavity, you still got to get a little air movement through there to dry the back side of the brick out. Because that's how it was built. They didn't know what they were doing when they did this, because this is the first veneered structure in Austin.
Exactly right.
So
Christoph and Joe, so these buildings at that time period were probably also had crawl space, which would have been ventilated, correct?
Yes, and we unventilated that in the attic.
Okay, but at the time when you guys opened it up, the attic was there and it was also ventilated. So the bellowing effect that you talked about, you were creating, was pulling that air in through the vents in the crawl space, up through that, behind the brick, up into the attic and then out. So you had a really good sort of.
Well, not only that, but it's balloon framed. So the air comes up from the basement on the sills, because it's not sitting on a plate, crosses at the joist.
Between the first and second floor.
And then goes out the shingles in the attic, and it drew that nice cool air out from underneath it. So what's wrong with our deal today? We air conditioned the building and we killed all that. So how do you get the wall not to turn into a chia pit?
Jay, that's a really good point. So you had crawl space, which is nice and cool, ventilating up potentially through the walls out the attic. It's an ideal scenario for a home that's uninsulated and no mechanical.
See, the problem with this wall section is now there's drywall right here on the once the product's done, it's got paper on it. So if you don't let this ventilate and dry out, you're going to have the drive come to the back of the paper, and it, unlike Lonely Pine, loves smoke.
So what do you do?
Well, I didn't bring pictures to that, but we came outside the building and we underneath the house we took the vents that are natural in the wall of the building and we put a big plenum under here in metal, and to get this to feed just a little air out, and we took it out the eave, and then we sealed the building airtight from inside.
How'd you do that? Was that
One little caulk tube at a time. But you also have to open up the ceiling or the floor you have to seal the band joist. You can't let it cross perk, or you've really done very little. And then in the attic we foamed it out to where so the air that comes up through here comes in from outside, goes up through here and out, and we don't have a whole lot of it happening. But there's enough to keep that pretty much in its original.
But it doesn't go in the attic.
No, it doesn't go in the attic. It goes up to the soffit, and we made a space to where it comes out, and we cut a little groove all the way around the house to where ventilate means it has to have holes at the bottom and the top. You want it to convect.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a big airstream. You know, weep holes aren't very big. We invented that crunchy mat to go in there to keep them from blocking up you just have to have the hole. The holes have to be in the bottom, and they can't be plugged up, and you want it to ventilate out the top.
So yeah,
Are you using conditioned air to do that?
No,
You
just
want
outside air. Just convection air from the outside.
Okay.
We've sealed off the attic. We've sealed off the crawl space with a product called Clean Space. The envelope of the house goes from the roof deck to the basement. And I do something, Terry. I do something as a preservationist that most preservationists get really scared of, is that we can kill 90% of the air infiltration in a house by I know this sounds brutal, but I recommend to a client in an old house that we leave one window operable in every room, and that we really weather strip it well, and we seal the rest of them shut. And that in itself is one of the most dramatic things you can do, and it's a fight because, you know, it's a hard thing for a preservationist like me who's a foamer to do that, but I want it to perform.
Would you say a foamer?
Foamer means you're a little crazy. You froth a little bit when you talk about batshit, rat shit, long-leaf pine dust. I don't know how many of y'all are just remodel contractors and how many of you are foamers, but
Does that explain why you're a Democrat?
yes,
You're a foamer?
and I'm hardcore left-wing Democrat on there. And that's how I failed the condom test, I think. We can't get these old buildings to perform like a new structure, but we can get it to perform the best it can.
Can you talk about how you did the air control layer and the insulation on this assembly? One of you, or Jennifer, do you?
She didn't do this one, but
No, well, yeah, you didn't insulate.
Isn't it similar to Baylor?
this isn't Baylor. This is 2212 New Oasis. Baylor, we're still working on how to do that. It's a brick. Jennifer ain't got that one. How to get the brick to breathe that Baylor.
So can you speculate? Would you try to insulate it?
Well, the other thing about in 1978, I was about to foam a 10,000 square foot all-wood Victorian hotel with no felt, and I didn't know crap.
What about spray foam?
I was 27 years old, and the federal urea formaldehyde gas. And so we stuffed those walls, we shot those walls with cellulose. And it can't be.
You just said not to do that.
I did, but I'm 27 years old, hell I know. And if you get you know all those wood joints are going to leak somewhere. Well, once they get enough water in there, the borates leach out of the cellulose, and you've got angel food cake for mold, and then you got a wet compress, and so I wouldn't have done it if I had to do it again. Okay, so if this had failed, see, you're home free, because then you just have to figure out a way to get the air out of the top and the bottom, and at 804 Baylor, we're going to use, at least this is the discussion, Roxel. We're going to use Roxel bats, and we're going to leave an airspace up against the outside shiplap. I just want to take this little tiny opportunity to tell y'all that we have booked the room at Shoal Creek Saloon for everybody that wants to come do free beer and hors d'oeuvres and continue this conversation with us. Now, Jennifer and Andy Äsk, can you go?
When?
Tonight? No, tonight at 6:30. Tonight at 6:30. When we leave here, a lot of times these conversations are better to have, one-on-one and stuff. So anybody that wants to come in, see a show of hands, everybody think you might want to go. Nobody? The room's booked, the beer's free. We'd love to have you, and we can continue the conversation.
Is this tie in?
It's not ending.
Huh?
I just want to be
Is this
clear.
tie in?
So we're going to use Roxel, and then we're going to foam the inside cavity to stop the air infiltration.
Yeah, the thinking behind the ventilation or that is, we're not sure if we get a leak behind that felt at some point, we still want, to kind of keep our, that Roxel's fine with water, but, to allow some drying capacity there that,
Yeah, stop it from compacting against the wood, the Roxel. We're leaving a 3/4 inch airspace, and we're accomplishing that with mortar crunch. What do you call it, son? Mortar mat?
No, it's mortar net.
Mortar net. We're putting it on the shiplap, then we're putting Roxel on it, and then we're putting foam.
I think the main thing with insulation selection, when you insulate it, historic, you want something that's vapor permeable but also resistant to water. And so the mineral wool fiber bats are in that category, and then obviously open cell spray foam is also, although with that, there's pros and cons with each type of system, but I wouldn't put closed cell spray foam or
Anywhere.
thick extruded polystyrene on to insulate a building.
Does anything go, what goes right here? You said you put
Well,
it on the ship.
first off, it's got felt, okay? All right? And then right inside,
So you would go
right,
as-
now, you need a slide with wood.
So if it doesn't have felt,
There you go.
that doesn't have.
No, that's plaster. The other thing about this plaster is that it's okay for that wall to be wet like that with plaster and lath, because the mold can't grow in the wooden lath, and it doesn't care about the plaster. But when you turn that around and you take that off of there and try to sheetrock it, then all of a sudden you've got a wet thing. And the mold loves drywall paper. So as long as you leave
So
it.
this one's easier to solve that, I think we.
What the hell is that? What is that?
Question?
I have a question about the interior wall surface. So if drywall, flex mold, doesn't sound like a great surface for our climate. What about new shiplap? Can we use those new, it's gray D pine?
Well, it'll be fine if you can stop the airflow behind it.
So it might allow air infiltration, but if you've done a good job with your wall system from the outside in, are the walls allowed to breathe back into the house and then get conditioned and pull back out from the AC?
Drywall was invented because shiplap was cost prohibitive. At 804 Baylor, which we showed you the slide a minute ago, it's a 1924 house. We think maybe the first or one of the first houses that was sheetrocked in Austin.
Is that this one?
Because it's balloon, no, it's balloon frame, keep going, it's balloon frame, but no, keep going.
What year was that?
I'm going
1924.
That's the first.
The drywall is 3/8 of an inch thick, and of course, we took it out because we tested for asbestos.
One comment I'd make is, I know
I'm still
City
stuck
of
on
Austin requires an air barrier on both sides of your insulation.
All
And-
6 sides, right?
Yeah, which gets challenging if you're not using drywall, that
Keep
that
going.
interior shiplap. I don't
Okay,
know that
there
would
it is.
qualify. So you might have to put a Tyvek or something before you put the shiplap, which seems redundant, but
If you've got a source on shiplap, it's great, but it's expensive.
So the air barrier and then shiplap. And there's also MGO. Who's considered putting MGO board instead of
What the hell is that?
magnesium oxide? It's what the rest of the world uses instead of cement and gypsum.
Where?
Pretty much, well,
In or out?
all over Asia. It's a cement replacement. It's a cement, fiber cement exterior cladding replacement. We'll talk about it different time. But on an interior.
Well, you want to use all that Asian air conditioner too.
Joe,
So
can you
this house,
use
how did you do this
paperless
house?
drywall? Does that work?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've never seen paperless drywall, so I have no clue.
Fiberglass.
The thing is, you've got to make you can put drywall on all that. You got to make the wall breathe though. I don't mean breathe. I hate that word. You got to ventilate the wall so that you don't have you don't. If that cavity dried out, you're not going to have a problem with any kind of moisture behind the drywall, unless you put oil-based paint or vinyl wallpaper or something on the drywall, where you stop the vapor, the molecular stuff coming through.
Exactly. So is this the one you wanted to see?
Do you?
So that one, how did you handle that?
Well, this is the one we're telling you that we put the crunchy stuff, the
Up against the shiplap.
up against the shiplap, and then we put Roxo on that, and then we're going to foam the rest, which would be about a couple inches. We're very leery of close cell foam because we don't want any place to stop the vapor coming through the wall. In an old house, in a new house, when we do this stuff, I really try to stop all the molecular vapor we can stop and all air infiltration. In an old house, you really can't do that. The wall's it's got to maintain its drying coefficient, or you can get in real trouble.
I think that's a really important point for you guys to hear, is that there's a difference in strategy between a retrofit and new construction, particularly when it comes to where you affect vapor control, vapor drive, vapor control. If you can put a layer in that prevents vapor drive and you can do the whole thing tight and promote drying both ways, it's reasonable to consider.
Right. So my question is, if there are like a baler, if we know you can't get into one section, right? Are there strategies that you can take a little bit of this, a little bit of that? For instance, we know water's going through the wall. Is there something, I know you said you can't make that a waterproof layer, but are there ways to reduce that permeability? And then there's is there another strategy to beef up the drying capacity, either by sizing your AC or putting a dehumidifier, to recognize this is an imperfect system and there's going to be a certain amount, but let's mitigate how much is getting into that and then try to calculate what else is going through? Or is it always a hard line that we have to
I think the line is very gray, and having done this, I mean, I think the sad thing is there's no magic for us to tell you here that every one of these dwellings has a different combination of things and a different set of components that will get you to get it to perform the best it can. So,
Well,
I don't know, maybe that's a crap out answer, but yes, dehumidification, and then whatever you get the wall to do.
if you have a dedicated humidity control system inside, will it affect the wall assembly?
It'll help.
No, help. You're kind of making a pretty good point. The strategy is to try to stop vapor from coming in, and wherever you do that, wherever you draw your line in the sand, line in the tar paper, as it were, make sure there's nothing inside of that slows down vapor.
Right.
Stop everything you can.
So if this is vapor closed,
Right. Stop that.
it can
That's
dry the
not most of
outside
the
and
vapor.
dry the inside.
Okay. The strategy then is most of the moisture is going to dry to the outside. You got the sun. When the sun hits the brick, it gets hot. That evaporates the moisture. You got air coming in the behind the brick. That's your mechanism for carrying away the water that's evaporating.
If that's vapor closed.
But everything that gets past your first line of defense, then make sure everything is vapor open from there on in, and let it come into the house, and then let the AC or the dehumidifiers take it out.
Interior surface, it's incredibly vapor open, and Tyvek is incredibly
Going back on with the dehumidification, there's not an issue with the vapor stopping and growing mold on the back side of the drywall, because you've increased the drying coefficient to the inside of the building, so whatever's in the drywall is going to dry out. So it's not running up there, it's drying in. We have long discussions. Yeah, it's drying in, so you've increased the drying coefficient. Like if you paint that brick, then you can only dry to the inside, and then you really need dehumidification. Now we put dehumidification in everything. It just even in a new house where we've done all this stuff, you've got washing machines and cooking and showers and that require that be lifted out of the house.
Mm-hmm. Andy, so can you make a comment about the mechanical, the air conditioning system ability to dry out the house, peak load, part load?
Yeah.
Or why you might want to add or you want to save it for tomorrow?
No. Now's a good time to talk about it. The truth in advertising, I sell dehumidifiers. I'm paid to promote dehumidifiers. The air conditioning system in a house or any building has tremendous capacity to remove humidity. When we talk about dedicated dehumidifiers, their capacity might be anywhere from 10 to 20% of the air conditioning system. The air conditioning system has much greater capacity for moving moisture than the dehumidifier when they're running. So now this would be more of a new construction than a preservationist observation. With the amount of insulation that we need to put in a building now to, first of all, meet code, and since it's in the code, we don't have to discuss it any further, but presumably it's in the code so that we save energy and save money. So we have to insulate the building, reduces the cooling load, the air conditioning doesn't run as long, and it simply is not available to take out moisture. So that's why we have to have a separate dehumidifier. In other words, if the weather's not hot enough, there's not enough load to make the air conditioner run, it won't take any moisture out, and that's why we need a separate dehumidifier.
And even in a historic house, it might be very humid in the air conditioner not running.
It's just compounded in a historic church.
All right, so any other questions?
Yeah. So we talked about the wall assemblies, but most of these historic homes have brick or masonry foundations, which are just wicking moisture up. How big of a factor is that? Because I'm guessing you're not putting a capillary break in any of those, right?
It's not, because it's not a factor because it's cost prohibitive to deal with. I don't think it's a factor.
If you have that ventilation, is that what you're saying?
Well, if you can get the wall to ventilate, then it doesn't matter. We haven't seen it as a problem. Now on the inside, we're putting the membrane all the way up to the joist. So all that wall and then we foam it. So all that wall on our jobs is sealed off from the envelope, and the foundation wall can only breathe to the outside.
But if it's a solid masonry wall without a cavity, then it's just like breathing to the inside.
Breathing to the outside only. Yeah. And then when you get to that, when you get up here to this cavity, then it has to breathe in both directions.
Yeah.
No.
What?
He said solid masonry wall, so it's breathing both ways.
Well, in a solid masonry wall, I thought he was just talking about the foundation because in the 2212 house, it's solid masonry until you get to the joist.
Right.
Like this brick is.
And then it goes veneer.
But the joist, the floor joists are framed into a solid brick wall.
Well, they're sitting on a solid brick wall. Huh?
They are not encased in it?
No, not on the ground floor. There's a shelf, but in the second floor, they're always stuck in that wall.
Yeah.
And they don't rot out because longleaf pine's pretty tough stuff. The cells evidently are so tight. What we were told by the Forest Service is the cells are so tight in longleaf and old growth lumber in general that the mold attacks the softest place. So that's why if you've ever pulled Tyvek off some OSB that's been leaking and it's charcoal, it's because mold only attacks the end grain of the wood, and OSB is solid end grain. There's nothing there of end grain. In plywood, you'll only see it deteriorate around the edges. if you've ever looked at a 2x12 with a big zebra stripe in it that's gray, that's because that's the soft grain. That's where the mold starts eating. And I don't mean to go. I meant to say that if you've got when in the 608 Baylor house where the wall was leaking, I showed you that leak. We left the plaster in the lath in there, so there wasn't an issue. At 806 Baylor, where we have plaster lath, the brick's going to have to come off the outside of the building because we're going to sheetrock the inside, and there's no way to do that.
How do you get the client to trust you enough to say, okay, let's take the brick off the outside of my historic building?
Now, if you come up with that answer, we're good. I don't know.
So you have to work for.
Well, I think a lot of times it really comes down to whether it's cost prohibitive to do a lot of things that we want to do.
So you present them the option of a building with a lower comfort expectation for them, or take the brick off. Is that what it was?
No, we're talking about that. Most people that have little houses and stuff, they can't afford to do. I'm right now, I'm blessed to have some clients that really want to bring the thing back correctly, and it's not an unlimited budget, but it's certainly generous. And then you get a little house like mine built in 1941. I didn't. We just didn't have a budget to do that. So how do you get them to trust you? I don't know. Act like you know what you're talking about. It's the first rule, right? And then go find somebody that knows what you're talking about to make sure you did. Good question. How do you do it?
It helps to speak slowly in a very low voice.
Well, man, I emote trust then, right?
So does anybody else want to see this wall solved? I kind of do. Any other questions? See something different?
We've got about 5 more minutes.
Has anyone dealt with a wall that doesn't have a layer? It's fairly common, I think, right?
Normally the layer that was there is so deteriorated, the rats have gotten to it and have used it to make all their nests that
Crunchy.
it is there. It's just fragments left on the studs. So you end up with that.
So how would you do it? I mean, I know my strategy, but
What is
you guys? No, you guys are the panel. I'm the moderator.
The really cool thing about him is the first time I heard Christoph talk was in this room. He made a presentation to the architects. When he got through, he said, "How do you think I did?" He's a physicist. I said, "I don't think anybody understood anything you said." And this, thank you. Look, he's all calm and he doesn't talk any molecular.
I'm trying this.
What's your solution, Christoph?
Well, I would make sure I ventilated that gap between the brick and the stud as best I possibly could. The reason I brought up the thing about trust is because if I could talk them into taking the brick off, well, then I got a lot of other options, right?
How much is it? What
I'm
you said?
assuming they're going to be like, the brick's not coming off.
$200,000. Are you on crack?
How much does it take brick off?
I don't know, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
You lose 30% of it, you got to put it back.
So straight up, when he said he has a house, he's taking the brick off, I was just like, really? Wow. How did you convince the client to do that?
Well, the other thing about the brick is, though, in this case, the brick was painted with cementation. Many times, because it got turned into a sixplex, that we said it's going to be less expensive, or not less expensive, it's going to be cost effective to take it off and put it back. And then, guess what's going on there? A guy
shop from new materials, let's use polymer modified mortar instead. Suddenly now the brick becomes the water flow path, and the brick is what takes the stress. So someone's shaking their head, you know not to do that. Say that again?
The masons all want to put a lot of Portland in the mortar, and it's really important that the mortar be like it was when they laid it, weak, so it can breathe.
So it's the highway. It's the what?
The servant.
Servant, yeah, it's the sacrificial.
Breathe the wrong word.
Something like that. Exactly. So with
Sacrificial.
in that scenario, so I try to promote drying up and down as best I can, and then I surrender on water control layers. So if I can't take the brick off, and I can't magically make one appear, I just say water that gets in, I'm going to dry it as best I can, and then I continue to allow for drying to the inside with materials that won't rot. So nothing, no cellulose. That's
But
completely organic.
and the trick to this
So
is
like a big, thick Roxel back,
It
maybe a
can-
layer of spray foam on the end as an air barrier. That'd be my, or yes, something like that.
the trick to your solution, which is the way to do it, is how you do that to get this to ventilate without getting that air inside the house, inside the envelope of the house.
He doesn't get out much.
I know. Actually, that's true. I'm not allowed that way.
So how do you do that? Like ventilating the soffit?
Well, you let it. You have to have a place to go.
Do you have to take the roof off to get
Oh,
to work right above there?
Oh.
Because it's, you know, it's
In the old house, in the old house, you usually have plenty of access to the heat because the roofs are steep. And then I've got mixed emotions about foam. I don't like closed cell foam ever.
even in your crawl space?
We don't use it, no.
So when you take the clean space up the crawl space wall, you use
Foam it with closed cell. I mean open cell. But it does hurt me to spray historic rafters with. You think that one would make a bigger play? I do. It does hurt me to foam historic fabric, but it's such a fabulous solution that to kill an air barrier in the attic where the wall hits the roof deck and bringing the attic into the envelope of the structure is critical.
What about lining it with Tyvek or something then foam?
I spent 15 years doing that, and it's pretty worthless.
You mean it doesn't stay, or what's worth?
Oh, it's a lot worse than that.
Didn't we just hear about something like that, Eric, in New Orleans?
As a possible solution to a historical retrofit situation, they were considering doing
Because
that.
they have the same rule, like that.
We
historic wood can't be tainted.
But I'm biased because I really think the only thing fit for Tyvek is to cover your floors.
Rory Ball, are you here? DuPont, right?
But the lady from DuPont that actually was the chemist that invented and worked on Tyvek's a friend of ours, and she knows how we feel.
So is Tyvek? Well, that's a whole separate discussion.
So what do you use for an air barrier? Not Tyvek.
Condom. We use what I don't know. It's not asphaltic. What the hell is it?
Rubberized asphalt.
There.
Is that what
Yeah.
the feeling stick?
Yeah, with or without a radiant barrier on it.
Carlisle?
I don't know. People get into that. We've got an outfit out of Waco that makes it. And we really like it, and it lets you dry the house in completely and totally, and then you're not fighting the.
Who's in Waco?
Do you use do you use the peel stick on the roof too, or do you recommend that?
The high temperature depends on the roof system. We actually, on Baylor for the clay tiles, we're having a discussion back and forth with the roofer because there's a little bit different, there's SBS modified underlayments and then there's rubberized asphalt.
Okay.
That,
The point I want to raise, I did allude to it a little bit earlier. I think we as the industry are finding out that the vapor is collecting near the ridge of the roofs, and that last course or so at the ridge had better be permeable.
We've not had that problem here.
Huh? You haven't?
No.
Okay.
No, but Austin's what we talk about doing here is it might not work in Dallas because it's colder. Again, we're going to the Soap Creek Saloon. We've got a room. Anybody wants to come down there to ask questions, we'd love to have you.
Now is the appropriate time for you to say that. You guys have any final words? Final comments? You don't have to.
At the risk maybe we're giving giving the wrong impression, to the extent that I get out not much more than Joe, we are seeing an awful lot of closed cell foam. We might be wrong, but I think other than here,
In northern climates?
well, everywhere I can identify a trend towards, not away from closed cell foam.
And towards vapor close to cell?
Yeah? No.
I will say one interesting fact. I have a job where we actually have spray foam somewhat, it's in a soffit area.
Closed or open?
Well, that was the thing. So I was recommending open cell because it's brand new construction, concrete, and they may be putting, a vapor barrier for the flooring on top. The Icynene rep actually advised against using open cell foam in that soffit condition where it was basically outside the envelope. They'd seen some durability issues with open cell when it gets wetted over and over again.
Mhm.
I still wasn't completely convinced because being in a soffit, it shouldn't get wet. It should just be exposed to atmospheric moisture. But that said, I mean, concrete's a whole nother issue. If you don't let that concrete dry out, where does it go? So.
It doesn't have anything to do, much to do with preservation, but a place we're going to be using, in Florida we're certainly going to be using closed cell, is to get to R30. I'm in climate zone 1, we will need R30. What's your roof?
38.
38. Any of you doing contemporary or modern design, where you're trying to get a very thin roof slab, that appearance. Okay, that roof ceiling sandwich now is going to be about 2 feet thick, and that's using closed cell, because the closed cell is about something a little over maybe 2.5 times the R per unit thickness. So we need almost 6 inches of closed cell if we use foam. If we are 30, we're at about 2 feet if we have open.
And I think the roof assemblies are a completely different critter than the wall assemblies.
Yeah.
And I would never put closed cell foam in a historic structure in a wall assembly, because you just don't. It's common logic that you want to slow that whatever molecular vapor is coming through the wall, but you do not want to do that. That wall the drying coefficient needs to be in and out. But on the roof assembly, that's a completely different issue. And it's expensive, the close, more so.
So any final questions from you guys? Final thoughts? All right, let's thank our